So after a lengthy delay due to circumstances beyond anyone's control, we finally got a chance to go and see Venom 2. And we're about to talk about it. Andrew, how do you think this is going to go?
Oh, there's going to be carnage.
I think so.
Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And I'm Andrew Mercer.
And we are here to review the brand new Venom, There Be Carnage. So we are going to do this review like we do any of our reviews, talking about the overall thoughts. Then we'll go into the story, the acting, the effects for sure, the sound design, all of that good stuff in turn. And we're going to have some fun with this one, I hope. We'll see. But I'm very curious to get into this with you, Andrew. Thank you very much for joining me on this review.
Thank you for having me.
So let me start with your overall thoughts, okay? What did you think of Venom, There Be Carnage?
Overall, I liked it. It was fun. I think there's the obvious wanting more, which I think a movie is, I don't know, it's beneficial if they leave you wanting more, you know? But overall, I liked it. Good storytelling. Little here and there, a lot of jumping around as far as telling multiple stories, I felt, which sort of took away, but also, I mean, you got to see more characters, and because you got to kind of see more characters, I'm a big fan of that, you know. They don't have to put them in the movie, but it seems like they wrote the story for it, and it benefited. I don't know, it felt good, but I'm interested to hear what your thoughts were.
I wasn't as big a fan of this movie as I was hoping I was going to be, so I guess I should start with my thoughts on Venom 1, which are, I thought that movie was fun. It went in a direction that I wasn't expecting for a Venom movie. Like, I feel like a Venom movie should be closer in tone to like what you'd imagine a Spawn movie to be, or like the Spawn HBO series from years back, and you know, a more serious tone. But they have very much turned it into not quite Marvel-esque, but a light-hearted sort of situation, and they've leaned heavily into that in the second movie, or at least I feel like that's what they did in the first movie. They did like a buddy picture between Eddie and Venom instead of something a little bit more sinister, but you know, they're trying to play to a bigger audience, and I understand that. And so they continue with that theme going into the second movie. So I'll say this. If you enjoyed the first movie and where the first movie went and ended up with the characters, you'll enjoy how the second movie continues with that and evolves from there. Because they very much take that ball and run with it. They're like, okay, this is the field we're playing on now. People had a good response to the first one, so we're going to continue playing in this field. And they very much lean into everything that they started in the first movie. Now, your mileage may vary depending on how you felt about that first movie. So I, again, wasn't the biggest fan of the first one, so I continued to not be the biggest fan of this one, and the reasons why I'll get into. But I liked Tom Hardy's performance, although I feel like Tom Hardy still was toned down a little bit from just the Eddie Brockness that was in the first movie. But, you know, overall, yeah, I was a little disappointed with this one, unfortunately. I don't know that the rest of the audience felt that way. Maybe they felt like you, but we'll get into it here. And we're going to do a separate spoiler discussion and review from this video, so I'm not sure if that'll drop at the same time as this, or if we'll drop this Thursday and that Friday, but we will be talking spoilers, Andrew and I, because the best part about this movie to me is the post-credit sequence. I'll just say it flat out. I'm not going to spoil what's in it, but that, to me, was the best part of the movie.
If that piques your interest, go find that video.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not saying what it is, but that was my favorite part of the movie. So that is definitely something we absolutely have to discuss. So we'll do a separate video discussing that. Now, as far as the story for this one, it picks up with Eddie and Venom coexisting, or trying to learn to coexist, I should say.
We do get a backstory of
Shriek.
Yes. So we do get a story before we actually do see Venom and the coexisting, and that's the backstory of Shriek and where that falls into this. Basically, she knows Cletus, and that's all you really needed to know for the beginning part of the movie. But
yeah,
they told you a little bit more too.
Yeah, we'll break down the story like beat by beat, you know, in the spoiler section like we normally do. So,
but she's there.
Yeah, she is involved, and so yes, we see Eddie coexisting with Venom, and finding out that Anne, his ex, is getting more serious with Dan. There's that whole bit going on throughout the movie as well. And then Cletus comes into the picture and requests Eddie come and interview him. And then stuff happens and Carnage emerges, and that becomes the driving force of the movie. The thing is, the movie is quite short. It's about 97 minutes.
Yeah.
And it plays super fast. So I felt like we were getting to basically where I would have imagined the second act would have ended, and it was the end of the movie. So it's not your typical Marvel movie that's 2.5 hours long. This is an hour and a half. It moves quickly, and the story finishes rapidly.
I agree with that, and the fact that they put a lot in here. They're telling the Carnage side of things with Venom, but they added a lot of extra stuff to it. I don't know if it was by choice or what, but it was packed. I mean, you're getting a full 85 minutes, whatever it was.
Without the credits, yeah. I mean, it's about 85, 87 minutes without the credits, but it just didn't satisfy me story-wise. Again, they continued where they were going, but this felt so much more episodic than like its own important story. Okay. And I have a lot of issues with what happened, but unfortunately I can't talk about a lot of those issues until that spoiler section. But yeah, the story just didn't satisfy me, so I wasn't a big fan of how the story played out. How about for you?
I liked it because I feel like they gave characters to each symbiote, so it didn't feel just like an effect. You know, these things pop up. There's dialogue, there's characters. You even see sort of a journey for basically non-existing characters. So it's fun in that aspect. Again, I like being able to individualize characters and having different characters. So it was kind of cool to see the story incorporate a lot of different people.
Okay. So let's talk about the acting then. Those self-same people. I mean, I thought everyone did a good job. I didn't have really a particular issue with anyone. They got to have some fun with certain characters. Mrs. Chen got to have a little more fun than I would have guessed going into it. I thought, obviously, Eddie had a good time. Anne got to have a good time. And Cletus. So Woody Harrelson was my biggest hesitation / trepidation going into this movie. I thought he was terrible in the first Venom movie. I thought the post-credit scene where he's like, there's gonna be carnage. I thought that looked ridiculous. I thought his wig looked ridiculous. Luckily, that's nowhere to be found in this one. And I feel like he dialed in his performance as Cletus a lot better in this film. So I appreciated Woody Harrelson more than I thought I would have for this role, although he's still way older than he should have, than the character should be.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I felt like his cerebralness to the character was there, you know, his delivery with dialogue and just the little bits that he would put on the character, but, and you're dealing with an older guy. I felt like in the fight scenes, you had to really stretch your imagination to believe that the guy that was delivering dialogue was also the guy running around doing all this stuff, so there was a little bit of disbelief you had to suspend there. But the lines were good enough to make it go away. He was really captivating as a psycho. It was he did a good job. So
now, what about everyone else? I thought the police detective, Detective Mulligan, who, if you know your Venom lore, plays a big role in the Venom universe, and it's interesting what they do with the character. But I gotta say, I didn't much like the actor that played him too much. I thought he came across. He came across a little Weasley, and that character isn't really a Weasley character, so I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of how they played out Detective Mulligan.
There were weird interactions with him and Brock, where like he played a lot of different faces. He was nice to him, and he wasn't. Then he was helping him, and he wasn't. He played a lot of different roles, so it was kind of weird that his arc wasn't just an arc. It was this weird thing. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of him, so I don't know. If we see him again, great. If not, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
For me. Sorry.
Anyone else tickle your fancy in the movie?
Who stuck out?
Did you like Shriek?
I thought Anne was really good.
Okay.
I liked her sort of. She was strong enough to be able to kind of understand the full situation, know everybody involved, and be able to talk to everybody involved, which is sort of a unique characteristic for somebody in the movie. So it was kind of cool to see her, you know, kind of wear the pants, so to say. And the actress that played it fit the character perfectly. So she did a really good job. I don't know, there wasn't anything that really jumped out, but everything kept moving. Nobody really got in the way of the movie, I would say. So.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about how the film was made. Now, I felt like there was big issues with the first film and how it was presented because it became just a jumbled mess of CG at a lot of points in the movie. And I was looking to see if switching directors to Andy Serkis, who is the one that actually directed this one, Andy Serkis, the motion capture man, he was the person that captured so many things for so many different movies, including the new Apes trilogy, and I think he did King Kong for Peter Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. He did Gollum, obviously, for Peter Jackson. So he knows from how to work with actors and work with people that are going to be largely CG and a plane of existence. I mean, not a actual aeroplane.
Like snakes on them.
But yeah, no, not that. So I feel like the direction actually benefited the movie tremendously because I never got lost in the action. I could always tell exactly what was going on for the most part. There were one or two scenes early on when it was Venom versus other people kind of thing, or Carnage versus other people before it gets to the main clash. Some of that action got a little crazy at times, but not nearly as bad as the first movie. It was much easier to follow. How did you think everything played out as far as direction goes?
I don't know. The action was good. Like, I didn't feel like there was anything because I did hear that there was kind of a lot going on in the first one. I didn't feel the same way. I'm very CG computer graphics oriented, so that stuff, even if it's heavy in the movie, I still kind of feel a natural aspect to it. So it didn't feel like it was overloaded. It was interesting to see some of the textures play out on screen because you have this like fluid entity, but the edges seem sharp. Mm-hmm. The points seem very pointy. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense. Sure. You know, the solid objects seem very stout, whereas they also had the fluidity to also, you know, move around the room. It was cool. It was really engaging to see a lot of the fight sequences play out the way they did because anything could happen. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they did a good job of showing that. Not too heavy, but I mean, it's CG. You know it's CG. It's not a surprise.
Here's one of the issues I had, though, is the direction has to work around the PG-13 rating.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of stuff that they're leading into that with an R rating you wouldn't cut away from, and there would be a lot of heads being eaten in this movie, but they cut away from every single one, and it shortchanges both the directing and the editing because it pulls me out of the movie every time they do it, where it's like, oh, come on, So that was a little frustrating, I gotta say.
And they explain that it's almost a necessity. Like, this guy has to do this to live. Mm-hmm. And so it's something where, I don't know, it seems like it's literally getting in the way so much. The PG rating is getting in the way of so many things in all different aspects. I would like to see a gory version of it, but I don't know. There was still fighting. There was still there wasn't any blood.
I didn't actually feel like there was nearly enough fighting in the movie, especially compared to the first one.
Yeah, maybe there was a couple good scenes.
Yeah, there was just a couple, but they tended to go by pretty quickly, in my opinion. But let's talk about the effects, though, because obviously Venom being a very effects-heavy movie, obviously both Venom and Carnage, very effects-heavy monsters. Now, I do feel like that they dialed in the look of the symbiotes more since the first one. Nothing looked quite as messy, as I said earlier, as the first one did. There was a distinct difference between Carnage and Venom, and I thought that played out really well. Venom and Riot looked way too similar in the first movie, which lent to the confusion, but Venom and Carnage look different enough where it looks really good. I thought both symbiotes looked really cool, and I liked the fact that they gave Carnage the detachable face like Venom has as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was neat. I thought all of the effects played well to the movie. Obviously, yes, there was still a lot of CG moments where you're like, okay, obviously that's not real, but you just got to kind of turn that little portion of your brain off during
suspend disbelief just a little. How far are you willing to push it? I'm willing to push it as far as I need to get through the movie. Some people don't like that. I'm fine with it.
If you're willing to accept that it's two CG symbiotes fighting and you're okay with that, why get bothered by something little that happened at a different point of the movie? It doesn't make sense to me. So, Andrew, what did you think of the effects?
I liked them. I liked how at some points, again, the characteristic, the features. I'm trying so hard not to spoil.
I know, we're almost there.
The features sort of lent to each situation. There's a part with Cletus where he's sort of showing off his powers, and it's catching everybody by surprise, which was just kind of nice to see that even though he just figured stuff out, there's differences, and they show them to you, then they show Venom. They're still figuring their stuff out, but I don't know, like the effects look good. I think both characters look good. There's a lot of moving around, I guess you could say, in this, and the symbiotes kind of looked different each time they moved around. So it was good. I liked it. There wasn't anything that looked too bad to point out.
Nothing looked too cartoony.
Yeah. Everything looked in the realm of belief within what you've already wanted from the movie. There wasn't anything as far as outline that was like, they could have done a better job of that.
So I do stand by something that I brought up in one of the trailer reactions we did, which was, and this is to do with the effects, they portray Carnage as not really having a central body in the film, and that's not the way Carnage was in the comics. And I know they're doing their own thing, but it doesn't make sense if this symbiote is still wrapping around a human, i.e. Cletus, then it should abide by those rules. The body doesn't just disappear when the symbiote takes over. And yet the body separates, and there's a hole right where the stomach would be when it's being shot by bullets and stuff, and it's like
exactly what I just alluded
that stuff
to.
Bothered me. Well, so no, that's in the trailer though, so that's not
I wanted to make sure.
Spoilerish.
Well, again, that's kind of what I was saying, where Venom doesn't really have that ability.
Right.
He has the ability to morph around stuff, or he has something similar to.
But is that an ability of Carnage, or is that just something the filmmakers thought would look cool? Like, I don't know. They don't explain it nearly enough to justify.
Again, he just kind of has.
There's not nearly enough justification.
There's no manual where they're like, oh, this is how you do this. They just do things, and it seems like, I don't know, gratuitous, situational affecting. They know exactly when to all of a sudden have the ability to move around bullets.
Apparently, yeah. So anyway, the last thing I think to talk about is the sound design and the sound effects. I thought the sound design was well done. I thought everything sounded good, but it does become a bit of a muddled mess because so much is going on in so many different portions of the movie that so much sound is going on literally all around, and sound plays an important part at times, and yet not as important a part as you might think it would be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it ultimately doesn't play as big a role as you think it would. Like, you think like, oh, well, this is obviously leading up to how things are going to end towards, and it's like, no, they don't quite take that route. And it's like, well, why? Okay, anyway.
It's like having a massive trump card in your back pocket, but just waiting and waiting and waiting. And you could use it now. You could now, and then all of a sudden they use it at the end of the movie.
And it doesn't really even for the right effects. But anyway, nonetheless,
but they used it.
The sound design, I thought, overall was okay, if a bit muddled at times. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the music?
I thought it was suspenseful. There was a lot of big horn swells and stuff like that for the Venom pushes and the Venom moves and stuff like that. The high pitch for Carnage kind of got lost, like you said, in the shuffle. There was a distinct high pitch squeal, and you noticed it in a couple specific parts where he kind of got the floor to shine, but it got lost in the battle sequences and stuff like that because there was just too much going on. So is there a way to do that right? Maybe not, just because in an action sequence you're gonna have noise, but like you said, noise plays such a key role. You'd think how they would be able to kind of distinguish or find a way to make it prominent and not just this thing that happens all the time but only is important at certain times. But I mean, there's also another thing that also plays an effect. I think they say there's sound and something. Fire, yeah.
Yeah, so, that was from the first two.
Yeah, keep your eyes peeled for not just sound but fire.
Yeah, so I don't know. Ultimately, I think that's everything regarding the movie as far as our non-spoiler thoughts.
Yeah.
Can you think of anything else you want to say?
I hope that they move forward in a way that incorporates more comics. There's a lot of Venom comics, a lot of origin stuff, a lot of newer stuff that they could do. So I don't know if they go that way, but I'm hoping for the best.
I don't think that we're going to get that anytime soon based on certain things that we'll talk about in the spoiler section. So
maybe
if you guys are
animated
interested
series.
in us talking about spoilers, go ahead and click on that video once it drops, and we'll be talking about those. We're about to talk about those now, so we need to end this here. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everyone at Allied for hooking us up with a screening to this. We greatly appreciate you guys, and we look forward to all the movies we're going to get to watch this Halloween season. But even if I didn't enjoy it that much, looks like Andrew did, and I'm sure all of you guys will as well. I just wasn't the Venom that I'm hoping for, and it is what it is.
Too much carnage for your Venom.
We'll talk about that in spoilers too. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Andrew Mercer.
And remember,
stay scared.